Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and I am joined by the one, the only, the oh so famous Mr. Albert Thompson with Digital Data Cafe.
Hey,
Albert,
how's it
what's up,
going?
buddy? How you doing?
Listen, I'm doing good. I don't know about oh so famous, but
Yeah, well, you're
yeah.
famous to me.
Oh,
You're data famous.
oh my
Uh,
gosh, that sounds dirty, doesn't it? Data famous. I don't
data
know.
famous. Hey, man, thanks for taking the time to jam. I'm excited to do more of these with you, by the way.
Oh,
Guys, this is not necessarily a formal podcast by any means. This is just me and Albert. We have a love for the industry, we have a love for data, and we're just going to have some coffee
that's
and
it.
just kind of talk about anything and everything that's just kind of going on in the industry. And I'm excited to do this with you, Albert.
Well, Jason, I love it. I'm excited. I like the informal vibe that we're going to do here. And what's funny about the whole thing is when you came to me and said, "Hey, let's do this coffee jamming." I was like, "Yeah, let's do this coffee thing." And guess what? I don't even drink coffee, so for me, it's orange juice. But we're going to be doing these coffee jam sessions.
Okay, I can't believe you actually don't drink coffee because, guys, I don't know if you've ever spent more than 5 minutes with Albert. I would have assumed, see, I just learned something about you, man, because I would have assumed that you are caffeinated 97% of the time. That is absolutely amazing that your energy is actually 100% natural because mine's not.
Yeah, no, it 100% is, man. It's so funny. I have to. I've gone through a bunch of leadership courses, right? And, some of the management courses, you learn a thing about your magic dust, and it's funny
Mhm.
because one of the things that I'm notorious for, like self awareness, right? Totally get it, totally know it. I move and think and talk at the speed of my mind, and for a lot of people, that's like, whoa. So yeah, no, natural dopamine, man, all natural.
I'm impressed, man. I am easily, and I'm admitting this on live TV, so it's good. But I am
Yeah,
probably about a pot, maybe a pot and a half a day.
jeez. That's amazing, man. I like,
I love my
and
coffee.
can you imagine? Can you imagine Albert caffeinated? Oof.
That's what I'm thinking right now. Actually, that's what I'm thinking. The fact that you were so naturally energetic like that, I kind of want to just one day slip you some caffeine, man. I just
Uh,
want to see, it reminds me of kind of like it's got to be one of those like cartoons, right? The Bugs Bunny cartoons, right? When like someone like you drink something and all of a sudden the eyes go, and then just like total Tasmanian devil. Yeah, I can
I
see
totally
that.
see like Speedy Gonzalez. I see like Speedy Gonzalez. Like, you know, either that or the other thing that kind of just pops in my head is like the Seinfeld episode where Cosmo Kramer walks in like that would be me.
Is Speedy Gonzalez like your spirit animal? If you had to pick,
Yeah, it's got to be, man. I mean, it's got to be my spirit animal. I mean, if you think about my heritage and my background, it all makes sense. I'm just this little speedy mouse, Mexican
that's
mouse.
awesome. I always kind of felt like I was more like a Daffy Duck. Like it's just like I don't know, just always kind of like being like the funny one, but always kind of getting themselves into like, trouble and stuff like that. I don't know, man, that's me. But
I don't know, but if I had to pick a duck, if I had to pick a duck, and not to go, I know we are in total crazy land right now, but if I had to pick a duck, I think I'd want to be the rich duck on Ducktales.
oh my gosh, DuckTales.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Now
The
see now
remember
you're tapping into my inner
the
childhood right there, man.
yeah, that's right. Now we're pegged. We're the early '80s, right? So
This is
yeah,
the perfect podcast. We're starting it off with pop culture references and and now we're gonna go into our fun topics. We're gonna talk about Carvana. Because who
ah,
doesn't want to talk about Carvana? I mean, I
I
gotta be
love
honest
the
with you. I
Carvana,
love
man.
them because for me as a podcaster and a content creator, they have
Oh, yeah.
been a source of content creation for me for years. So I have to say, Carvana, thank you. All right, for
Yes,
just being you,
yes.
because I can make hundreds and hundreds of videos and people still want to hear about it. But no, man, I want to get your take. What's up with Carvana? What are you thinking?
Oh my gosh, man. Well, listen, where do we unpack it, right? I mean, if you go all the way back to the beginning, I got to tell you, when I started seeing what I used to call them like they weren't leaning towers, but I used to call them the Tower of Pisas, right? The glass Tower of Pisas off the highway. And I was like, man, what is this company doing? What are they going to sell 10 cars out of this vending machine? Um, so I just never understood the model until you finally started seeing what they were doing. And listen, it made sense, right? If you think about Carvana, I think you got to go back to the beginning. They I wrote about this, Jason, in one of my responses on LinkedIn. And what they really did, man, is they capitalized in our auto industry business, not necessarily in the things that the auto industry was doing right, but they found the areas that we were doing wrong. And they put their proverbial foot in the door. And once they had that crack, they kicked it wide open. And customers were ready for that, right? They were ready for a different way to do business um, online, right? And I think that that's what they did. They proverbially kicked the door open in our industry.
Oh, dude, in a huge way, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. Look, like I said, I had nothing but appreciation for him. Like I think when you swing for the fences, you really lean back and you swing hard, right? And I got to be honest with you, car vending machines is kind of in line with the crazy crap that I kind of like to do in the first place. So I probably would have been one of the first people there saying, "Hey, I got an idea." Um,
Well,
it's
I mean, with little branding power, right? I mean, that was a hack, right? I mean, let's think about it. These towering glass vending machines, right? And in 34 cities, right? And they got their start 10 years ago. And their whole goal, right, was to set out and transform this antiquated industry of used cars. And if you think about it, right, the mantra in the industry, right? In my background, shoot, man, between you and now everybody else listening, I started selling cars when I was 16 years old and had my first photo taking business for eBay. And this was before Auction 123. Believe it or not, I probably was the first one doing it, right? I was scanning Polaroids. So, I saw this happen. But the mantra that we consistently saw with the industry was we had what we felt was this mindset of, hey, we've got the product, we've got the inventory, we've got the supply, you're the customer, you're going to do it our way. If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Well, yes and no, right? Like, I mean, I like breaking things.
Right.
I mean, I personally do. I think things are always kind of ready for disruption. And, look, for, put aside the name because I think our industry has associated them with maybe some bad advertising and poking fun at our industry, which I
That's
think
right.
honestly was one of their downfalls.
That was one
I
of their
I I
downfalls.
think I think they could have really tried to be a part of the industry rather than being an outliner of the industry,
That's right.
because I think what they were attempting to do for the customer experience is phenomenal, right? It's the Amazon. It's like,
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you, man. It's the holidays, so I mean, how many Amazon boxes do you have outside your house right now?
Oh, right. Literally, I just got like 5 of them yesterday. So I probably have 2 of them sitting outside right now. I have 3 sitting in the front door. It's exactly right.
It's such an amazing experience. I get the picture, like, hey, the package is there. It's like I see something, I can read, I can feel connected to it, I can read reviews of it, I can watch videos about it, and then I'm like, yeah, I want to purchase it, and then it gets there, and the jacket doesn't fit, and I can send it back, and there's just this such a high level of frictionless of high level of yeah, friction of less friction in that process, and that's what Carvana was doing, and I had to applaud them. I think that the experience was great, but I
Yeah.
think there were some financial mistakes. What do you think?
Well, yeah, no, I agree, right? And I think, from a very high level, if you think about exactly what they were attempting to accomplish, right? Create this online marketplace that allows customers to buy and sell their cars throughout the country, and either delivering the cars to the buyer's home or allowing pickup at the vending machines, allowing this tryout period for them to test drive the vehicles. All of that stuff makes sense. I think that the flaw, right, was really the logistical infrastructure of it. And one of the things that we really have to give kudos and props to our dealers out there, right?
Mm,
And look, I took my shot at being a dealer. I had a used car store. It's not easy, man. It's
sure.
extremely difficult. And I'm gonna tell you, making sure that you've got, all of your compliance and all of your documentation and delivering the temp tags and being able to, put all of that process in place. It's hard in a local market, let alone trying to accomplish that from a national, you know, system. And I think that, when you think about that, you have all different MBAs, BMVs, motor
Mm,
vehicle laws, and have to, then you're giving these temp tags. Temp tags are, going to get expired. Then they have to make sure they're getting the titles. The problem was, unlike Amazon, where it's consumer packaged goods to the household, right? We are in a situation where this is a car. This is a car with a lot of process, a lot of paperwork, a lot of, potential issues, reconditioning, and that put a lot of customers in some weird spots. And I'm not sure they were properly registered with a lot of that stuff. And so a lot of times they kept putting temporary plates on cars just to keep them on the road. And some buyers couldn't find that they couldn't even legally drive the cars. And it's just that swarm of infrastructure of policy and red tape that really, I think, caused them a lot of problems.
Look, you're 100% right. I mean, I started a BDC, or what we called an internet department, right, in 2003. All right, in New Mexico, and we were drop shipping, Corvettes to Dubai and sending dualies to Alaska. And I say that, but then I forget to mention this at times, that there was only 7 other states I could do this with. Out of all 50 states, there were only 7 other states, and I had to have someone on site, a notary, all right, that would meet the owner on the vehicle at that time to get notarized. And there was only a handful of states I could actually do this with, But yeah, I mean, it's look, they took a swing at it. The funny thing is, I don't think Carvana is dead. I don't. I really don't. I think Carvana is, I would say, cocooning themselves. All right, like they're kind of sucking back in a little bit. They're sucking back in the resources. They're sucking back in kind of their marketing decisions and some logistics. And I think what you're going to see come out of it, I think potentially could be a leaner, meaner version. Or they just don't come out of the cocoon at all. One of 2 things are going to happen, right? They're sucking themselves back in. They're creating this cocoon around themselves. All right, either they're going to come out as a butterfly, or they're going to come out just dead. It's going to be one of those 2 things, but I don't think Carvana is dead yet. I still think there's still a play. There's still an opportunity for them to kind of evolve. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if they do it. But what are your thoughts? You think they'll do it?
It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be, they're what I would call very high default risk. And I think it's going to be very hard for them to be able to redeem themselves. But yeah, it's possible, right? We don't know if they're going to go the Chapter 11 route yet or not. But here's what's interesting, right? Yahoo, I think this morning, released an article and, rated them as literally the worst company of the year for 2022.
Can you imagine, like, just if someone said that about you, what would you do?
Oh my gosh, man, being the worst. Well, it's even worse, right? Because you started off as the best company in the year. So I think it's even worse to think, okay, you came in the year rushing through the pandemic as one of the top, companies. You barrel into 2022 on top, and then you come out the back door of 2023 as the worst. That's rough, man. And look at it this way, right? Its cash burn rate is so high that I'm not sure if they're going to be able to really form a stable, persistent profitability. And with their negative free cash flow, it's consistently falling short. The other issue, I think, Jason, that really kind of makes me wonder if they can pull out of it, and I think we should talk about it, right, was the very, as the article calls it, a very ill-timed deal with the ADESA acquisition.
Oh my gosh. Can you, okay, let's just take a second here, right? Like, I just want to be a fly on the wall when this decision was made, right? Like,
yes.
you're like, I just, okay, your stock prices are dropping. All right. Yep. You're burning more money than you ever have before. You're pretty much in free fall. Okay. So picture this. You're in a jet, you're in free fall, and someone's like, I got an idea.
Yeah. Well, and look, and here it is. Well, and so as a CEO myself, right, look at it this way. I'm thinking, look at how the proposition probably came to them. Guys, we are swarmed with red tape right now. We're facing multiple state suspensions. We don't have the logistical transportation, to be able to get these cars to and from. We don't have the infrastructure to recondition the vehicles in a way that makes, any type of scalable operation. So I think from the surface level details, not looking at it from the financial execution side of it,
that's a good point.
It made sense, right? From a business standpoint, it made sense. Hey, we can get to probably same day shipping. We can literally have these micro auction locations that we can actually store the vehicles, right? So that becomes your transportation hub, Amazon type transportation model. Then you got to think, oh, wow, these things already have built-in reconditioning opportunities. And then 3, right, if there's a way to absorb a revenue stream from an auction if dealers will buy from us. We don't know that yet, but hey, we'll bet on that. We will bet on the fact that maybe dealers will buy from us at the auction,
Mhm.
and that could be another opportunity for some cash flow. Then basically at that point, it's like, hey, maybe we can bail ourselves out of it. So I think it was a really bad deal that was knee jerk and emotional at best, which put them
It
into a
felt,
really,
let's call it what it is. It felt like a Hail Mary.
yeah, it
All
was,
right.
it's,
It was literally that. Look, they're 15 yards or 15 yards from it. They're not gonna punt. All right, they're gonna go for it. A full on Hail Mary. It's got it less than 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter. All right. If they don't do something, they're gonna be judged for not doing anything. So I get in the position that they were in, right? Because if they didn't do something, they're gonna be 100% thrown to the wolves, the fact that they didn't do anything.
yeah, yeah,
So here comes they're lining back. They're lining back. They throw the Hail Mary,
it,
and
yeah.
uh,
And to finance that deal, if you know anything about the deal with the Odessa deal, they financed $3 billion at over 10% interest to already a massively debt-ridden company, which nearly triples. I think it triples their debt. So listen, I don't know how they're going to claw out of the debt without being able to file bankruptcy. They're in a complete, to your point, free fall. I think they sold 425,000 cars, and now we're going into this inflation. I mean, they're hedged up against all sides of the market right now. It's going to be tough. They're going to need to raise more money. Yeah, they're going to need to raise more money somehow, some way. That's the way they're going to have to get out of this.
I agree. I think they got one more. I think they got one more shot. I think they got one more shot. And like I said, I think they have to look. I think they have a great concept. I think it can be an amazing customer experience, but I think they're going to have to. They're gonna have to figure this out. Like they get one more crack. Maybe they're gonna get one more crack. I don't know, right? Like I said, they're going to the cocoon mode. Let's see if they actually come out of it or not. But hey, on the flip side of that, on like the polar
Yes,
opposite of that, right?
yes,
I want to talk about pizza. Um, I
yeah.
like pizza, by the way.
I love pizza. Well, listen, I'm consistently a weekly pizza eater. I eat pizza every single week. Thursdays, by the way, Thursdays pizza day.
is
So
Thursday pizza okay? You know what's funny? Because my family does the same. It's Wednesday nights for us. Wednesday
is it?
nights pizza night for us, and it's
We
just
should do a survey of how many people out there have a daily, weekly, consistent pizza night.
I think people would be surprised that it's a lot more than they actually think of. But like, the reason I want to bring up pizza, not just because people must be listening or watching this and going, God, these guys go squirrel really easily. I mean, they just went from talking about Carvana, and now they're talking about their weekly pizza nights. But
Yeah.
we'll explain to the audience why we're talking about pizza. Specifically, we're talking about Pizza Hut.
Yes.
Because they have done something recently, and you actually posted an article about it, and I read it, and I was just like, look, we got to chat about this because
Oh,
I think if you really break down what Pizza Hut has done, there are so many things that we can learn and bits and pieces that we can take and put into our own operational strategies. But I'll let you kind of take it. Give us the gist of what Pizza Hut is doing right now.
well, here's the deal. Just like a lot of brands, I really truly believe, it's my thesis, our thesis that 2023 and beyond is really going to be the year of the data. I think you've heard more and more about, first party. You've heard about cookieless, right? You've heard about Flock. Google's taking cookies. All of the things that's really leading brands to start to look at understanding their first party data. Well, just like every other brand, Pizza Hut is looking at where they can start to understand how to use their data layer to help drive incremental sales. And so, really interesting article came out today talking about how they've leaned into a first party strategy to help drive those sales. And it's fascinating to me because it's what we've been talking about on and on and on, which is not just brands that are as big as Pizza Hut, but car dealers, local businesses,
Mhm.
retailers. We have to start looking at what I call the in-reach, our in-reach audience. For the last 20, 30 years that internet, marketing's been out there, we've always, Jason, focused on outreach, right? Let's go out and buy.
Constant outreach, constant acquisition. Yes, 100%.
Yes, that's right. And what that audience strategy looked like to acquire, audiences has evolved and changed, right? But
Mhm.
today, right now, it's more than ever super important for brands to look inside of their businesses and find ways to build audiences, right, from their customers, right? And then they can use those customers to then, take that first party data to segment those out to help build marketing strategies and drive those sales through the digital pathways. And so Pizza Hut's been able to do that successfully, and it's really interesting how they're doing that, specifically from a CTV and an OTT standpoint.
Well, but also think the reason why they're doing it, right? They're doing it. This is the interesting thing. You're starting to see a lot more companies understand that marketing affects the overall experience more than anything. See, I think for the longest time, a lot of people kind of assume marketing is just being the acquisition portion. And then
Right.
once I kind of get them, once they've made an inquiry, now it's my responsibility to create the experience from that point. Oh, no,
Right.
what we're saying here is no, the experience starts with the marketing.
That's right.
And when we talk about experience, like really what makes up an experience, right? And I think what makes up an experience is how personalized it is to me as an individual. Like if I feel like the company knows me,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna give you an example because I love the Pizza Hut app, like I truly do. And I
Yeah.
know this is a little different than what we're talking about, but I'm just okay. So I go to book a service with my car dealership, my truck. I don't know what it is. There's a battery problem. It's covered under warranty, so they're doing that. But I had to make an appointment, right?
Right.
I had to fill out 4 pages of information, and I'm just like, how the you need my name, my first name, my VIN number, my phone number, my email address, my mailing address, my secondary phone number, all right, like what my problems are, what my vehicle mileage is, and I'm just going. I bought a $55,000 vehicle from you.
Right.
I go to Pizza Hut app. First thing pops up goes, "Hey, this is what you ordered last time, Mr. Harris. Did you want to order that again?"
Yep. Yep. It's becoming relationship driven, right? It's people based marketing, and that's where we really have to get to. And I think that's going to be the differential as to how we continue to progress when it comes to data, right? Today, we're still in this world where it's like, hey, let's go out and buy these audiences that haven't engaged with us. We don't know much about them. We can get down to what we think is the right demography, the right psychography, the right household composition. But to your point, when you have that understanding of who that customer is, and then you have the understanding of what that customer is about, that experience, right, goes through the roof, which means your re-engagement is going to be in an uptick.
It's huge. I mean, why treat me like a stranger when you know that I'm not?
That's right.
And I think I think for a lot of dealerships out there that may be watching or listening right now, and are becoming more data conscious.
Yeah.
I think our industry in general is becoming more data conscious. Like, I definitely see this next generation of dealer principals who were raised around a data and what can and can't be done, and how scary and how great it can be, all in the same bit of they're becoming more conscious of how they use their dealership's data, but combining that with additional data to create better experiences. But it's no longer this thought process that the experience starts at the dealership. The experience starts way before the dealership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if you take this and let's bring this into the dealer world for a second,
Mhm.
right? So the same way that Pizza Hut now can say, hey, we've got this ability to harvest, mine, and pull out our first party data and understand a customer that's ordered whatever in the last 30 days, right? Then they can market to that person accordingly, right? So just transpose the industry here. I now am an automotive dealer, and I have a customer that comes into my service drive, and I now have an understanding of what that customer service was, and if they've done business with me in the last 30, 60, and maybe it's a little longer because, hey, you're not going to reposition brakes or tires in front of that customer within 30 days. But that doesn't change the fact that you need to understand that customer's purchase journey. You need to understand that customer's historical journey. And then you need to be able to understand how you can re-engage that person accordingly to their makeup, right? Into what they're doing in terms of their journey, in terms of their vehicle ownership. And then how you can, from a laser focused standpoint, put that into a digital pathway or an offline pathway that is relevant and meaningful. And I'll take it one step further. Let's talk about relevant and meaningful for a second. How many times do we have DMS systems or even CRM systems that are still having household addresses to a Jason Harris 123 Main Street for a house you lived at 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and let's say they're still emailing you or mailing you about your recall for your 2011 Lexus IS 250 that you sold 6 cars ago.
Yep.
That still happens today.
I
So
still get notifications for, let's see, it was a Nissan Versa that we bought in 2010. And to this day, because it's kind of an ongoing joke, I know the dealer principal because we were friends and stuff like that. And I bought it for my wife. It was a temporary vehicle to get around because we're waiting for another vehicle to come in. And I still get email notifications that the vehicle is due for service.
yeah, yeah. So super not personalized and super not effective and definitely not very good return on ad spend and ROAS. Um, I think that Jason, what's interesting to me about the year I'm going to call 2023 the year of data for auto. I think it really is. I think it's for most businesses the year of data, right? Where your early adopters, understood data back in 2017, 18, 19, started adopting a philosophy in 2020, 2021. Here we are where it's unavoidable. Sticking your head in the sand will not work. We're to that point now where I believe 100%, automotive dealers will be talking about data. They will be defining a data strategy, and then they're going to want to figure out how they can dip their toe into this, big data scary world. And I think the one thing that I'll say here, and I think that, hopefully you'd love to get your take on this, but it's not as scary and as crazy as it sounds. It's back to the basics, right? We were talking about this. I believe last time we met, we were talking about this, right? Which was keeping your notes of your customer on
Yeah,
the roll.
it's something that simple.
It's really that simple, right? It's like the good salespeople back in the day, right? Jason, you'd walk into the dealership and be like, "Oh, Jason Harris likes to play tennis. He's married, has 3 kids. He loves to fly remote control airplanes." And so maybe the next time you're walking in there, maybe you don't buy something, but you're in there for service. Be like, "Hey man, how's the family? Have you taking that plane out and flown it around?" Right now, you're having that personalized conversation, that experience with that customer. We're not talking about anything much differently here, except that you're doing that from a data strategy as opposed to a old school Rolodex strategy.
Well, and look, I think examples like that will help a lot of our dealerships kind of better understand the importance of it. I mean, I'll give you another one, right? Going back to service. We used to keep notes on how our service customers took their coffee.
Yeah.
I did something that really pissed off my team. Is I actually took my coffee machine away from the front.
Right.
So I took it away and I actually put it back behind where the advisors were. So customers couldn't get to the coffee machine by themselves.
They had to go ask for it.
My way of making a process commitment that we were going to bring the coffee to you. You weren't going to have to do it yourself. So it was something as simple as like, oh, I see, let's see, 1 cream, 2 sugar, right? And just kind of reaching around behind them, hitting the machine, boop, 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 boop. Okay, it was done, right? But just that simple acknowledgement of like, hey, I know you.
I know.
I
I know.
know you,
And
right?
that's the key, man. We have to get to a world where we are treating our customer data, our audience data in that way, where it's relationship based, it's relationship driven. Customer data and customer privacy are becoming top of mind.
Mhm.
And so for consumers, right, the way you're going to combat that is you're going to have to make it relevant. You're going to have to make it about that customer. You're going to have to make it about understanding who they are and having the 360-degree snapshot of what's relevant to me and what makes my life important, and how you as a business are going to be meaningful to that.
Well, and look, I think it also kind of goes into our next topic around audience building, right? I'm going to give you a story about audience building that if I had the opportunity, just how do we map this? Okay, so I had Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Sanchez bought a Mitsubishi Outlander from me,
Mm-hmm.
bought 2 Lancers from me for his kids,
Yep.
and he bought a what was it at the time? Oh, it would have been a Mitsubishi Eclipse as well for his wife. So
Wow.
he had 4 vehicles. Now, Mr. Sanchez also had 2 brothers. And both of them, and I can't remember both of their names at this time, but both of them came in and almost equally bought equally as many cars.
Right.
Okay. So I had 4 over here. So I'm talking about almost 12 cars from a single individual, right? But if you think about the way that we look at data right now, like our CRMs would have just chosen these as 3 entirely different clients.
That's
Okay.
right.
So I'll give you an example. I'm off. Okay. Mr. Sanchez comes in and brings in his niece. His niece wants to buy a Mitsubishi Lancer.
Right.
And my team negotiates the deal and doesn't agree to an offer and sends Mr. Sanchez away.
Hmm.
And when we're recapping the next day, I'm telling him, I'm like, okay, well, what happened? Oh, I see, Mr. So we were $278 away. That's how far it was. And my team was proud. They were proud that they, stuck it to our guns. We professionally said no. We maintained our profitability, boss, just like you told us we should. I said,
Right.
guys, that's great. That's great. But do you know who Mr. Sanchez is? And I'm like, well, wait a second. He's like, what do you mean? And I start pulling up these accounts because I knew them, right? Because there was no system to show this. First,
That's
I
right.
pulled up service. First thing I did was pull up his service records for the last 5 years. And I said, look at this. They were like, oh my God, you spent that much money servicing cars with us? I said, yeah, that's just him. Let me pull up his
Yep.
brother real quick. I pulled up his brother's account. Then I pull up his other brother's account, right? And then I look at
Yep.
this family has almost 13 cars from us.
Yep.
You let him walk for $276. Was that
Yeah.
a data-driven decision?
No, absolutely not. Like that's the problem, man. It's the communication pathways that break down, right? And this is the challenge. I mean, what you're talking about is a major challenge in not just auto, but in all industries. And so
100%.
what I love what you're talking about here, right? And I can't do this with my fingers, but I'll, listen, if you think about in the world of data, you hear a bunch of buzzwords, right? You hear about a customer data platform. You hear about a customer relationship management tool. You hear about a customer experience, a CXM platform. If you listen to the keywords there, right? All of those are driven by the word customer, which means after the fact. Mr. Sanchez is a customer, right? But before Mr. Sanchez is a customer, he's a potential intender, right? He's part of an audience.
Yes.
So you've got 2 things going on here. So put the audience to the side for a second. Going back to this Mr. Sanchez, situation here. Your CRM, might have his information and might have some notes and details, but it's not necessarily communicating back with the data linkages of the service. And it's not communicating back with the data linkages of understanding the household composition of
Exactly,
Mr.
because
Sanchez's.
those purchases were done underneath his son and his daughter's name and then the wife's name. So if I pulled him up, it only looked like he owned 1 vehicle.
Right. And this is where that linkage has to happen. And you got to really have that. And when we talk about the 360-degree view of these customers, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? A world where as these individuals engaging on your business or on your website, and as they continue to go through their journey and they get through certain segments and areas within the pathways of their journey, and not necessarily talking about post-customer at this point, but even just in the journey, right? And let's say they get to a VDP, or let's say they get to the oil change offer. You need a mechanism that then communicates back and says, hey, this individual has gotten to this point of this journey. Here's who this individual is. This individual then maps back to all of the important information that's relevant about that customer. So then you can then make either automated decisioning towards how you can remarket or market to that person, or manual decisioning as to how you want to re-engage that customer. And it's never going to be perfect, Jason, at this point, but we got to get better at that, right? Understanding how to be consistent across the channels, how we can be consistent across our approach, and how we can be consistent as to how we measure the attribution and how that engagement is happening.
I look, consistency is the key, right?
Yes.
And look, I don't think anybody's got it figured out yet. If I use the story that I kind of just described of, these tremendous amount of missing data links, right?
Yep.
Like, I mean, I knew it because I had the data in my head. Like I had the picture, the customer map in my head, but there was no system to kind of put one and one to one together. But once you laid it out, my team was easy to go, oh, holy crap, you're right. But this is the exciting stuff. This is the exciting part. This is what we're talking about, right? This is where we're going, guys. If you're out there watching and listening right now, all right, this is the direction that the entire industry is going. It's just about becoming more and more data conscious in our marketing efforts, more and more data conscious in our operation efforts, and our servicing efforts, and our loyalty efforts, and just amazing things are going to happen. Look, I'm so excited for our industry because I think, like I said, we're becoming more and more data conscious. We're moving in the right direction. I know we're at the tail end of our conversation, but we could easily probably go another hour or so. But hey,
This is why we're going to continue to do the coffee chats.
exactly, this is why we're going to do the coffee chats.
OJ and coffee, OJ and coffee, OJ and coffee.
OJ and coffee. I'll drink the
OJ.
coffee. He'll drink the OJ. Hey, for everyone out there watching, listening right now, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with us. If you'd love to connect with me, please check out strategywithjason.com. You can find out anything and everything to do with what we're about and what we're able to offer dealerships. Albert, for yourself, what's the best way to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out on driveniq.com or LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or email me at albert@driveniq.com.
Thanks, everyone. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason.